Next week will mark the return of the European Rally Championship for its first round of 7 in 2026. In this video we're going to look forward to the season coming up, and we're going to talk through the runners, riders and the first stage for the first of 2 Spanish rallies on the international scene in as many weeks. Before Rally is Las Canarias and WRC, we have Andalusia Rally Sierra Morena for the ERC. And we'll go through the entry list first of all. For those of you who are familiar with the WRC but not the ERC, the top class is Rally 2, or what is WRC 2 on the World Rally Championship circuits. So let's start off with our top entries for the Rally 2 class. Reigning champion Miko Marcik will be with car number 1. Car number 2 will be former WRC works driver Teemu Sulonen behind the wheel of a Fabia, as is Marcik. And then it's 3 Fabias from 3, with Fauzaldivar being the number 3. After that we have the first Lancia. Lancia making their debut in the ERC this season with their Rally 2 Ypsilon. And Andrea Mabolini will be driving for Lancia Corsa HF. Then JC Race Technic are going to be running a Fabia RS for Isaac Riesen. And then we have the first of the MRF team, Simona Tempestini with a Fabia RS. Now, bear in mind, and we're going to look at this in a moment, MRF don't just supply for one car. They supply for all different classes of car, even different cars within the same class. Because although Jakub Batulka is next on the list, oh no, I've got that wrong. It's Gian Domenico Basso, who is with a, third car in as many years. He's with a Fabia. The next MRF is Eric Seiss, who is driving an i20. Then after Matulka, we've got Jose Antonio Suarez. We have a Citroen C3 from Motorsport Island Rally Academy's William Crichton. We have Gabor Nemeth with a Fabia RS. We have Roberto Black with a GR Yaris. We have Dominik Strzelecki behind the wheel of a Fabia RS. Philip Allen with a GR Yaris. He switched across to a Fabia. Kalle Karlberg, the reigning junior champion, and is also competing in JWRC with a Citroen C3 here in the ERC. Andras Haddock with a Fiesta Rally 2 car. Tristan Charpentier is making the step up from Rally 3 to Rally 2 machinery this year with a Fabia. Callum Devine will be behind the wheel of a Fabia RS. Toyota Spain will be having Ivan Ares and Boya Rosada, a Sorda co-driver, behind the wheel of a GR Yaris. Recalvi team for Jorge Caquiao with a Citroen C3. And then we have Adrian Jeznik with a Fabia, another MRF for Andrei Gertefan, the Romanian, driving another Fabia. Benjamin Korhala behind the wheel of a Fabia RS. I don't know if that's any relation to another Korhala that has been here and there. Marco Bellaccio will be in a Fabia. And Tuka Koppanen for Rautio Motorsport will be behind the wheel of a Lancia Ypsilon. Then we have Pierre Rag behind the wheel of a Fabia, Piotr Krotoshinsky behind the wheel of another Fabia, and Adam Grant rounding out the Rally 2 entry list with another Fabia RS. So the Skoda is quite popular for this time around in the Rally 2 class. Rally 3 is opened by Hubert Kowalczyk. Then we have Błażej Gazda with another Clio. Igor Vidwak will be the lead Ford Fiesta on the entry list, followed by Casey J. Coleman, Ville Vatanen, and then Sebastian Batinsky behind the wheel of another Clio. Then we have Jan Pokos, Craig Ryhill, and these are more Fiestas. Same for Kian Caldwell, Peter Kaczarek, Callum Griffin, and Robert Proudlock. Some of these drivers you might have heard of if you followed the British Rally Championship before. Then we have some more Clios. Lucas Zielinski, Alexander Tomov, and Maximilian Lichtenegger. The Rally 3 entry list being rounded out by Jon Socias in a Ford Fiesta and Alexandra Teslavan even, behind the wheel of another Fiesta. And then for Rally 4, we have a variety of different cars, some of which are going to be entered for juniors and others will not. So we have Francesco De Cecchi with a Lancia. We have Tommaso Sandrin, who is in a privately entered Lancia. Valentino Leda behind the wheel of a Corsa. Another private Lancia for Atu Hakaleto. Petr Turkin will be driving a Renault Clio Rally 4. And then I believe we get to the non-seeded entries. Ludwig Ziglani with a Renault Clio RS line. Alvaro Muniz with a Skoda Fabia RS. Unai de la Deza with a Citroen C3, Nuria Pons with a Skoda Fabia RS, Paul Everard with an Ypsilon Rally 4, Wolfgang Ilache with a 208 Rally 4, and then 3 more Clio RS lines, Javier Vasquez, Bernardo Cordoba, and Juan Melendez Valdez. All in all, that is, 62 entries. We skip the number 13, so we have numbers 1 through 63. And as for the stages, we have 13 competitive tests, but it is spread across Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because we start off with the shakedown, which is also the qualifying stage, where the road order is decided. Los Ferraris will serve as that. It also served as it last year, but we're using a slightly different stretch of road. I believe it is still going to be run in a similar... Oh no, it's even being run in the opposite direction. But we have an additional couple of kilometers at the start of it, and then cut off a couple of kilometers at the end. Then Friday we have the Cordoba Super Special test. That's going to be in the downtown. It doesn't use any of the Super Special that we had last year, I believe. It's going to be a lot of donuts. So I'm hoping that there's nobody with particularly bad motion sickness behind the wheel this weekend. Friday we'll have 2 loops of 3 stages. Open up with Obello Villanueva de Cordoba, and that is a 20.9 kilometer test. It has featured a little bit in previous editions, in that the stretch between 2k and 7k made up one of the stages last year, but aside from that, the remainder of this 21 kilometer test is brand new. It starts off high up, 700 meters above sea level, and then dips down, which is where we then part from last year's route at about 250 meters above sea level. It climbs back up quite rapidly over the following 7 kilometers, and then it sort of plateaus with still some elevation changes through the winding road on the A30-100 towards the end of the test. The second stage of each loop will be Pozoblanco Villajata. That is a 26.1 kilometer test, and it did feature in last year's event in the same direction as well, so it will be familiar for drivers who were here last year. Though I believe it is also technically slightly longer. I think there's an additional kilometer at the end of the stage. It's winding, it goes down a valley, then up over a hill, then back down into another valley before another steep climb, and then a little bit of a drop in the new bit at the end of the stage. Third stage of each loop is going to be the SPL test. 4.8 kilometers. It's going to be very spectator friendly. It goes through a town. It has not featured in Rally Sierra Morena before. However, it has been in Rally Valle de Guidato, and it has featured in that in some way, shape or form, though I believe only once in their shortened form in the opposite direction in 2024, but it's been in Spanish rallying for the past couple of years. It's just to the north of Cordoba, which is going to be somewhat nearby where the morning stages happen. Then when it comes to Sunday, again, 3 stages looped. Obello will be opening up the stages for the Sunday, and I believe it was run last year as well. 6.7 kilometers last year, stages 2 and 5. This one is 8.95 kilometers, so some of it will be familiar. It's being run in the same direction, but we have an additional 2 kilometers at the end of the stage. Stages 9 and 12 will be Villa Viciosa, a 27.05 kilometer test that has been in this rally before, though it is being run in the opposite direction in 2026. Steep drop at the start, then it climbs back up, and then it stays nearly a kilometer above sea level at the run to Villa Viciosa de Cordoba. Final stage for the rally. It's the final stage of both loops. It will serve as a rally ending power stage, Villanueva del Rey. This was in the rally last year. It was one of the Saturday stages last year, and again, it's being run in the opposite direction. Has it been run in this direction before? I do not believe so, looking at the data that I see from rallymaps.com. Potentially. Yeah. The very first time it was run. The 2021 edition of Sierra Morena. And what it'll mean is the Plaza de la Iglesia will be the finishing point for the rally, which is really nice. Rally will be all done and dusted at around 6 PM local time, and yeah, be a fun little watch to have. As for a recap of what happened last year in 2025, it was a win for Nikolai Gryajan by 46 seconds over Joan Bernardo. Third place was Jose Antonio Suarez, one of the local drivers. He was 1 minute 24.8 off the win, which could bode well for him this time around. Andrea Mabolini was fourth, 13 seconds, nearly 14 seconds, behind Suarez, whilst Miko Marcik rounded out the top 5. Behind them it was Pepe Lopez, Wille Johansson, Mads Osberg, Stefan Lefebvre and Simon Wagner. Lots of names that are not returning for this year's edition. I believe we have Suarez, we have Mabolini, we have Marcik. Do we have Lopez? I think we have Lopez. And then a couple of people from a bit further down, like Matulka, Blach, De Hester, Haddock. So it could end up proving quite interesting. Okay, to ERC3, Charpentier won last year from Zhezhnik and Abramovsky. We have a few drivers returning this time around in ERC3 who were in last year's edition, but I'm not too sure who would be ones to watch there. And then for ERC4, it was Sergei Perez Jr. from Kalle Karlberg, then it was Jasper Farr, Craig Ryhill, Johan Lloyd, Tommaso Sandra and Matteo Doretto. It will be a tricky one to also guess because lots of people, again, have gone to different classes. And in addition to that, the Lancia has been more developed through a year of competition, so it's hard to tell where the balance is going to be in the Rally 4 category. Either way, folks, that's that for this video. As always, thanks so much for watching and joining, thank you for your support, and make sure to tune in next Sunday. I believe that's when I'm going to be putting in the review for this event, or it might even be, depending on how late it gets when I get to sit down and watch it, it might even be on the Monday. But either way, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for joining, and until next time, it's bye-bye for now.